Hey guys, welcome back. Happy Sunday. I hope all of y'all had a great weekend. Let's touch on a couple things that happened at the end of last week and what is about to happen this week coming up. Let's get right into it. As of the time of this filming, which is 9 p.m. Central here on Sunday, futures are currently green, pointing towards a positive open on Monday morning. Let's keep our fingers crossed. We got a lot going on this week. Just take a look at all of the big names on the earnings calendar for this week, depending on how they report. Do they meet? Do they beat? Do they miss? What is their forward guidance for the rest of this year? A lot could change this week, so keep your head on a swivel and be prepared to react. Don't forget, I also have a live stream scheduled for the morning of Thursday, the 25th, to cover the IMAX earnings live. If you're interested in hearing what management has to say or the analyst questions for IMAX executives, be sure and join us on that live on Thursday morning, the 25th. And if a massive earnings week wasn't enough, we got a full economic calendar this coming week too. Census Bureau reporting on new residential sales for March on Tuesday. S&P Global releasing both its manufacturing and servicing purchase managers indexes for April. Wednesday, the Bureau of Economic Analysis will release its advance estimate of first quarter GDP, and the Census Bureau will release the durable goods report for March. Thursday, National Association of Realtors will release its pending home sales index for March. Labor Department will release its initial unemployment benefits claims for the week ending April 20th. And on Friday, the Bureau of Economic Analysis will also release its personal consumption expenditures report for March. Lots going on here. Lots of things that could change the direction of the market depending on how these reports come in. In crypto news, late Friday, the Bitcoin halving did actually finally take effect, so that is out of the way. We have an article here talking about how Bitcoin miners are going to be coping with slashed revenues now that the halving is in effect. But what I really wanted to show you in this article is this graph, which shows that typically after a halving event, Bitcoin prices tend to rise, not necessarily right away, but in the months or a year following a halving event. So that is something to keep an eye on, and let's see if it happens again. Another thing that everybody is all excited about that happened at the end of last week was Devin Nunes over at Truth Social wrote a letter to NASDAQ complaining about naked short selling on DJT stock. Over on this channel, we're not going to really be making any videos talking about this topic. There are plenty of other places you can go if that's what you want to hear. But I do find it interesting, and despite the fact that nobody's made any headway on this topic, maybe Mr. Nunes and Truth Social will make some headway and finally get some answers for us. Or like so many other companies we have seen, maybe they're just saying what they need to say to keep retail investors on the hook until Donald Trump can get out from underneath the shares that he has on lockdown. Either way, please be careful as you evaluate how this news might affect this stock. As far as DJT stock itself goes, I'm not in love with the financials, but I do love me a good momentum trade, and this one is going to have momentum and volatility both to the downside and to the upside. So play it smart, don't get overconfident, take some profits along the way, and hopefully you can play this one on house money. I know I will be looking for opportunities to do so myself. Not a stock that I would recommend except to those who know how to trade momentum plays or have the willpower to pull that sell button when it makes sense. In other news from the 19th, Paramount stock jumps on reports that Sony is a potential buyer. The details on this from a media report that said Sony's movie division and investment firm Apollo Global have been in talks to make a joint bid for the media company. The potential bid from Apollo and Sony would be an all-cash offer for all of the outstanding stock in Paramount, and that would mean that they are taking the company private. Sources go on to say that neither Sony nor Apollo have submitted an official bid to buy Paramount because the parent company of streaming platform Paramount Plus is currently in exclusive talks to be acquired by Skydance Media. That's something important to keep in mind as a hinge pin before the Sony Apollo deal could move forward. In AMC news, we've been on dilution watch here, providing you guys with occasional updates about where we think the company is in progress of getting its dilution done. we think based on the price action last week that maybe the dilution is done. And I've been on 8K watch every day after the market closes, waiting for an 8K to drop to tell us just that. So I was a little bit excited on Friday when an 8K did finally drop, but unfortunately, it didn't have anything to do with the dilution. And in summary, this 8K is AMC demonstrating to investors and to the world that they are not going to consider Chapter 11. This 8K covers the credit facility that AMC is making sure they have in place, the emergency slush fund, to ensure that they minimize the risk of Chapter 11, minimize the risk of bankruptcy. This 8K, just at a very high level, reiterates some of the stuff I went over with you guys when we covered the 10K a few months ago, letting you know in that video that AMC was not going to be renewing its senior revolving credit facility. And that credit facility that they are not renewing had a restriction on it, a restriction that required a minimum liquidity of $100 million. Now, they told us months ago that they were not going to renew it. This is the official announcement. That credit facility is kind of like a credit card that the company could tap into if they have an emergency. In fact, they did tap into it in 2020. AMC took down or borrowed the full $225 million on that revolving credit facility in 2020 when there were no movies, when there were no incomes. It was an emergency tap into the credit facility to help pay the bills. And then after that, as movies got going again, they paid that off. So it has been paid off for some time. It's just a credit card sitting out there with some restrictions on it. And AMC said, we don't need that anymore. We don't need your stinking restrictions. So goodbye to that credit facility. And they did disclose in this 8K that they are replacing the senior revolving credit facility with letters of credit. Unfortunately, we don't have any details on those. I would expect normally some details, but we don't have them. So all I can tell you is what they have here. Senior revolving credit facility going away, and it will be replaced with letters of credit. If any more details come out on this, I will be sure and let you know. In summary, I want you to think of these letters of credit as kind of like an unused credit card with a very high limit. This is not a loan. It is the ability for the company to tap into funds if needed, if some emergency happens. And yet one more way of AMC demonstrating that they are taking steps to minimize the Chapter 11 risk. Really, guys, the Chapter 11 risk for AMC going forward into future years has more to do with future box office than anything else. So please go see a movie. Support your company. Speaking of movies, looks like this weekend came in at $60.4 million for April 19th through 21st, with the big hits being Civil War, Abigail, and Godzilla x Kong. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare coming in fourth place at $9 million. I went to go see this weekend both Abigail and the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I love both of them, and I hope that you guys go see them as well. I think you will enjoy both of these films. 3 weeks into Q2 now, we are off to a slow start as we expected we would be. $325 million. April is going to be the slow month of this quarter. May starts getting a little bit better, and June is going to be the best month of the quarter. So don't sweat April being slow. That was expected, and we're going to be watching for much bigger numbers as we get into May and June. My rough estimate for the Q2 box office, based on looking at the movies that are upcoming later this quarter, is in the neighborhood of $2.2 to $2.3 billion. Will we get there? Stay tuned and find out. But the bulk of the good movies for Q2 are loaded into May and June. We'll see you there. We're going to close out by looking at the chart, but first let's talk about this dilution. Are they done yet? I don't know. They could be based on the price action we're going to look at on the chart. But if they're not, when we look at scenario 2 that I've been reporting to you guys from time to time over the past 2 or 3 weeks, volume on the day on the 19th was 28.6 million. Estimated average sale price of shares, if AMC was selling shares, would have been around $3.13 on that day. That gives them, by my estimates, a completion of about $230 million since March 28th, with an average sales price per share of around $3.28. To sum that all up, here at the top, you can see target $250 million, completed estimate, my estimate, Could be right, could be wrong. $230 million or 92% complete. 70 million shares sold so far. We will find out any day now, I think, when AMC is done with the dilution. And remember, this is just presented here as my opinion, my best guess of what's going on. The only way we know the real news on this is when AMC releases an 8K or Adam Aaron tweets with some details. So keep your eye out for that. That is going to be the real news. Looking at the chart, many of you think, and I think myself, the chart tells us that quite possibly the dilution is done. Either that or someone knows something that we don't know and they are buying it up, and 238 might have been the bottom. We will find out next week. I still see people out there calling for AMC to trace all the way back down to $1.50. Hey, I guess we'll all just have to find out together. But the other thing that I'm waiting to hear on is not just news that the dilution is complete, but I really want to hear some news that the debt restructuring is in the bag, that it's done, that the deal is signed. And as far as I'm concerned, the sooner we get that unknown out from underneath the list of things we got to worry about, the better. AMC stock performed very well moving up last week despite the overall market going down. Now, according to the futures, as we looked at them at the beginning of this video, the market looks to be green next week. Will AMC continue to run green with the market? Let's hope so. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you think that the dilution is done? Or do you think that we still have a week or so to go? Or do you think that they're just going to stretch it out for the remainder of the year? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for sharing your evening with me, or if you're watching from Europe here in the morning, good morning to you. I will see you guys on Monday. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video.